Can we talk for a minute about our Integrating Heart and Mind workshop?
Absolutely. I'm excited. It's coming up in the fall of 2024.
I'm so excited. We changed the format to make it more accessible to people with like work schedules and personal schedules. And so this time we're going to do it 3 hours on a Friday afternoon or evening, depending on where you're at, and 5 hours on Saturday for 2 different weeks in September.
Yeah, it's so great. Like if you're finding yourself stuck in like sticky bad patterns or having communication issues or something like that, or if you want to just like get closer and trust yourself or your partner more, this is the workshop for you.
Yeah, and individuals are welcome, couples are welcome. If you're interested in really thinking through how to serve yourself well inside of your relationships, then we've built a workshop that will support you in finding the ways that are just right for you.
To sign up, head over to our website at whydoesmypartner.com/events.
We hope you'll join us. Welcome to the Why Doesn't My Partner podcast. I'm Jules.
I'm Vickey.
And I'm Rebecca. We're your hosts. We're also couples therapists and messy humans bumbling through our own relationships every day.
We met through our training and practice of relational life therapy. Between us, we have more than 40 years of experience holding hard relational questions with our clients. We're going to bring those questions here.
And together, we're going to take a stab at answering those questions. This podcast is not a substitute for therapy. If something you hear in this episode stirs something deep within you about your relationship, reach out to a couples therapist in your area.
We also love to hear your questions, so don't forget to go over to whydoesmypartner.com and leave us a question of your own. Here's today's question. Why does my partner act like their mother or father? This is a follow-up to last week's question.
Well, the why is pretty easy. It's what to do with it, and that's really hard. So the why is we live what we saw.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. I was like,
why
is the why really easy? I don't
it's
know.
Super easy. It's super easy. It's just modeling.
Yeah. I don't know that all of our listeners knew that.
I think you're right. Yeah, we live what we learn.
People wonder this. Yeah.
Yeah, kids learn what they live, right? So we copy. In order to learn to walk, we copy walking.
I'm just picturing a toddler walking. That's really cute.
Right. And when you think about it, like under stress, how do kids learn how to respond to stress? Like they watch their parents responding to stress. And then I know that when I'm not in my best self, there's a certain way that I act. And when my teenager is not in her best self, there's a way that she reacts that looks a heck of a lot like me when I'm not in my best self.
Mine's only 8 now, and I can already see it blossoming a little bit.
Oh, it is hard.
I cannot wait to face the heart of the teen years.
Here's where it gets even better. Here's where it gets even better. Because my reaction and her reaction, like when we look at them both together, they also look a lot like my mother's. And that looks a lot like her mother's. There's a generational
we see the
pattern.
Family going
we
through.
see what's been taught.
Yeah. Years ago, so my grandmother and my mother are both passed away. I was early 20s, maybe even late teens. So not a therapist yet. No, none of this training yet or anything, but I was wise beyond my years. I don't know what was happening with my mom and my grandmother. Like everyone was laughing, but I looked at them at one point and I said, if anyone ever has questions about me, I need to lock them in a room with both of you for 24 hours and every question will be answered. And I don't remember what was happening. I remember looking at them both and saying that. No one was fighting. And they chuckled and we all moved on. And like I look at Gabe sometimes, I'm like, you don't get to look at my mom and my grandma and have it all make sense. But it totally would. Yeah. Like, I'm sure of it in the good moments and the bad moments, right? Like, we are what we see.
Yeah, we are.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's why we do it. That's why we act like our parents.
Mm-hmm. What to do about it? Now that's a different question.
Especially when we're not liking those reenactments.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm thinking about how important it is to have compassion for how hard it is to stop that. So if I'm bearing witness to my partner acting like one of his parents, so let's say he's acting like his dad, it is very, very hard. Sometimes I got to take a time out. Sometimes I got to take a time out. But if I see, especially sometimes if he's in like that stuff he learned from his dad when his dad was at his worst, which when my hubby's at doing that, he doesn't look nearly as bad as his dad did, but it's familiar. It's similar, right? Those are moments that are really hard.
Yeah.
For me to find the compassion, you know? Are they hard for you guys too?
Yeah. When what happens in our relationship is that we both tend to act like our parents around the same time. And it's like, it's
fun.
It's super fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had a client once who told me about this interaction where she's fighting with her husband and she slams her hands down on the kitchen counter and yells, "We have got to stop fighting with our mothers."
Yeah, I love it so much. Yes.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. For me, I grew up with a lot of family conflict. And so when I would go, before I had done a lot of my own healing, and that really has transformed a lot. And let me just back up a second more and say, there were many years where I thought I had done my healing. It was really cute. It was really cute. Right. But like there's different edges of what healing can look like. And the way that I know now that I'm more healed is that I'm a lot less reactive. I don't have these same tentacles don't live inside of me. But it used to be that I would go and spend time with my family of origin, with or without my partner. And I would come back and I would act like my family of origin towards my partner. And it was, I just brought the conflict from one environment to the other. I didn't have power in one place, so I asserted the power in the other.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah.
You played a different role in the conflict. I love how you just described that. You didn't have the power in one place, so you exerted it in the other. So you shifted the dynamic. Not in a good way, by the way, but I hear what you're saying. Like you found your voice where you could, even though it wasn't in the healthiest of ways. I hate that term unhealthy, so I'm sorry about that. But in the most connected of ways.
Yeah, it wasn't very relational. Yeah.
Yeah. How about you, Vicky? Do you have any tricks for gaining compassion, like in the moment, or are you building it outside of the moment? Like, so there's no way for your partner not to act like one of their parents. Right. So we know he does. That's impossible not to happen.
Right.
When that's happening, how do you do your U-turn?
So to be really vague, obviously depends on the moment. So there are times that I take a time out. There are times, and this is because I've been doing this, working this model for 6 years now, that there are times that I don't have to take the time out. And I do end up taking a time out, and I'll tell you why. Because even if I'm in my connected brain, I can't get him there if he's not. So I may be curious as to what's going on with him, but I won't stay curious for long, because since I can't get him connected in the moment, it's only a matter of time before I go disconnected as well.
I love that you're saying that, because I think this is exactly right. I wonder if we could all in our partnerships, and I don't know, I'm trying to extricate it altogether, but the idea that we could get someone to do something. Could we extricate that thought from our relationships? You can't. You can request it. You can demand it. You can leave if you don't get it. But you can't get someone to behave differently, think differently, feel differently. Like that's a boundary violation. We want to control our partner's psychology in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
And think back to kind of like where that comes from, right? Because when you think about being like the one with less power, being a child, right? It's often someone with more power, a parent, who is trying to do exactly that. Right? Right? Like I'm thinking about myself as a parent. There's many moments where I want to get my kid to put on their shoes and get in the car, right? Like
exactly. That's exactly what I was thinking. I was like, what about at school when I have to get her to school on time and I actually need to get her to do this thing?
Right.
Like,
but so that's like, it's something we know inside of our systems, what it feels like to be in the less powerful position. And so then there's other places where we want to hold that power.
There's also sometimes, and I know how I phrased it, but what I meant was just simply more influencing or shifting the dynamic. That if I'm in my connected brain and I can stay there and shift the dynamic and help him to integrate as well, that's more what I meant. And I'm not able to do that either. So I want to point out, I was talking about something different and I'm not able to.
And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Because I think you're right on there. You know, our brains are scanning our environment 4 times a second for signs of safety and danger. So if I can stay in an integrated space in a difficult conversation, if I can keep re-regulating, I keep U-turning and treating myself with compassion. And yes, this is hard and we can do hard things and we're in this together. I keep in that we, us mindset. It's very possible that after 20 seconds or so, my partner will read my face and tone of voice and join me.
Right.
In that integration. It's actually really possible. They're reading safety subconsciously. Right.
And that doesn't work with us. Not yet.
And
I know it could. What I found though, so even though I have to take a time out still because I can't influence him enough. I have a curiosity now with him that I didn't have years ago, where I really go to this place of like, I wonder what's going on with him right now. And now a big difference for Gabe and I is that it's not even 24 hours. Sometimes I need to readdress it. Like, and Terry doesn't like this, but I sometimes need to go like days. And if I go days, and then readdress it with him of like, do you remember when X, Y, or Z? And he's like, yeah. What was going on for you? He can then, and this isn't the feedback wheel, he can tell me, oh, X, Y, or Z. I readdressed something with him once, I kid you not, 6 months later. Remember when that thing happened on the stairs? Yes. What was that about for you? Oh, I was trying to be playful. And when you didn't, I felt rejected. Oh. Like that was so not my experience of it. So I'm glad I asked you.
I am excited in this moment for you that you have a husband with that good of memory.
It was a really big,
that is awesome.
Big explosion. You don't always do.
And I can put in a vote here for what you're talking about, which is it's okay to take space and talk about it later. I'm not a fan of that whole don't go to bed angry thing.
Right.
I grew up on that one.
Yeah, I say take your time. Try to swing back. Don't worry, you'll have another opportunity.
Right. And I don't harp on it in my head for days or months or what. It's not like I'm harboring resentment for 6 months and I finally bring it up. Yeah. But it's more that when it does cross my mind days later, I can say, hey, remember when this happened? And sometimes he says no, absolutely. And then I let it go. But the times he says yes, I can probe. And then, because in the moment, it's, well, you were being annoying. But days later, he can get in touch with his own stuff of, oh, this is what was coming up for me.
Yeah. I'm feeling so grateful to Adam in this moment because I think he is better at staying curious and compassionate when I'm acting like one of my parents than I am towards him. So I'm feeling really grateful in this moment that he can do that, like in real time, because often he does.
Yeah. I'm also noticing that my partner, James, he's really able to kind of call to my attention when I'm doing it. Right.
And you're able to receive that.
I haven't
for both of you.
Always been, but is there now, right? Like,
Mhm.
and I think part of it has to do with goodwill.
Mhm.
Like there's enough goodwill between us in our relationship. The energy between us is like we take care of ourselves, we take care of our relationship enough that at this point, like we can extend that, like, he's not being critical of me. I know that he has my back and that's why he's saying this. Right. But when I didn't have that present in the relationship, things maybe wouldn't go the same way. So I think that that's an important component here. And there's this piece now where I can hear when he says, sweetie, you're kind of acting like your mom right now. You want to just check that?
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That there's enough, you have to have a ton of goodwill for a move like that to work. I want to tell our listeners at home.
Yeah.
That particular move, a code word, works better if you don't have enough goodwill to be able to say something like that. But if you have enough goodwill, that can really work.
Yeah,
that can really work. You know what I'm thinking about? I'm catching that we've been talking a while, but I don't want to leave this subject without talking about family of origin loyalty. Take it away, because I know this is one of your favorites.
Well, it's a
this is a huge why about why people do this,
right? Because we have this thing where we want to belong in that original family.
Well, here's the thing. As humans, we're so interdependent. Remember this. You don't belong and you get shoved out of a group. You get shoved out of a group, you die.
Right.
Yeah.
That's in your DNA.
We have to belong.
You have
so
to belong.
Belonging is equals like a death threat level problem if you don't have it.
So that feeling of not belonging gets kind of kicked up throughout our life. And we try to reorient to the belonging. And one of the ways that we come back into the trying to attain the belonging, I'm not saying it actually brings us there, but it's this kind of like unconscious way that we are trying to attain that belonging is by acting like the people who raised us. And sometimes that means acting like someone who's really neglectful, or acting like someone who was abusive, or acting like someone who raged, or acting like, right? Like it could mean that if that's who raised you.
Yeah. And the thing is if you change out of that, what you do is you leave them.
You leave them. And you also have to invite in some grief there that that was the experience and that you're leaving them.
Yeah. Sometimes we do it too. There's a great way to be psychologically close to a parent you wanted to be close to, and that's act like them.
Oof.
So if you felt really distant from one of your parents and there was an ache in that, like in the distance between you.
That's right.
You can psychologically bridge that gap. And this is super subconscious, super subconscious. But you can psychologically bridge that gap by acting like them. And when you stop, what it means is you say, it's okay not to be that close to that parent. That's hard.
Which is painful, yeah.
Yeah, well, it's cycle breaking. And it takes a ton of courage.
A ton of
I call it a
courage
psychic
and a ton of grief.
separation.
Yes, say it again. Say it again. Everybody needs to hear this.
A psychic separation.
That's right.
Psychic, yeah, that's right.
It's a psychic separation. So remember, when we want our partner not to act like their family of origin, what we're actually asking for is be hyper conscious of all the moves you're making. That's a large mountain to climb, so that you don't model like you normally would, as a normal human would, everything you've ever known. So could you not do that? And also, could you leave your family and all the belonging you ever knew? And also, could you say goodbye to the parent that you wish you were close to? And then not be close to them anymore. So remember, when we're asking our partner not to do this, that is actually not a small ask.
Yeah. And so there's the
when you phrase it that way. Yeah.
Right. But that invites
Yeah.
in so much space for compassion right there.
Mm-hmm.
It is not a small ask. And
It's
so
not
much
a
of this
small
is
ask.
unconscious. And by the way, your partner may be doing this, but guess what? You probably are too.
So are you. So when you ask that question, we can also say, will you turn it in and say, I wonder how I just act like my mom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's leave it there.
All right.
Connected and protected.
Take care.
Bye.
That wraps up this week's episode. Join us again next week for another Why Does My Partner?
We hope that you continue to listen wherever you get your audio and that you'll follow the show.
To go deeper, join us at our boot camp. You'll find the next date at whydoesmypartner.com.
Did you know you could ask us your question?
Your questions are relational gold.
Go to whydoesmypartner.com to either write in or record your question for a future episode.